Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be talking about Undermount drawer slides. Talking about why they're awesome and why you should be using them. So for me in my business, I've found that the Undermount slides are far superior to the side mount slides. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I guess the main ones really are I find them way easier to work with. They're more adjustable, they're just simpler, and clients generally love them because these are considered cool and fancy and these are kind of blah. So it works out. All right, so first let me cover sort of the barrier to entry or the complication with this. I think Undermount slides are perceived by a lot of people, they were by me honestly, as too complicated or too confusing, or you're changing your process, so now I gotta learn something new. The drawers gotta be built different, all of these things. Maybe it's cost, maybe it's complication, maybe it's a little bit of fear. You have a process, you've been using it, you don't want to change it. I get it. But the process for undermounts in practice is simpler, and I'll show you what I mean. Cost-wise, I don't know that that's actually a barrier for most people, but I think it shouldn't be anyway. I pay somewhere around 24, 25 bucks for a pair of Undermount slides with the three-way adjustable clips. That's going to vary wherever you are in the world and what brand you're using and what size they are, but they're not much more. They're more, but in the span of a kitchen or a couple of bath vanities, it's not going to make a big difference in your project. So I don't think cost is it. And again, the process to me is simpler, and I'm going to explain how that works. Okay, so why do I like undermounts better than side mounts? There's several reasons, and I'll get into the details of each one here as we go. But they are easier to install. They are more adjustable and more forgiving. They have more appeal, or the clients like them better. And I think they have better actual just general use once they're in and they're in place in a client's home or your home or whatever, using them. I like them better than side mounts. They perform better. Okay, so let's talk about designing your cabinets, or basically installing these things to make it easy. Trust me, it is easy. I'm going to show you right now. So this is a bath vanity we're working on in the shop currently. You can see I have the drawer boxes in here, and they are mounted on Undermount slides. They're under there, I promise. So the change from side mounts to undermounts, in fact, it doesn't even really matter. And all of the manufacturers that you're going to buy, whether you're buying Bloom or Salice or whatever it might be, they're going to be a little different, right? But just once you figure out the brand, it's simple. Everything I use is Salice. Not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. Everyone says it different. If you know what the right one is, comment, let me know. I don't know. Anyways, all of this is in reference to that brand. So if you use a different brand, it might be a little bit different, but the concepts are going to be the same once you have a few basic dimensions. The only dimensions I need to figure this out are these. Whatever my opening for my drawer box is, right? So if the box isn't in here, whatever the width of this box is, my drawer box is going to be 3/8 of an inch less than that opening, 3/16 per side. That's how I size my drawer box. That's it. The slides get mounted right to the sides of the opening. So again, whatever the opening of this is, my drawer box is going to be 3/8 of an inch narrower than that. That's it. That drawer box is also going to sit 3/4 of an inch up off this bottom surface. So you see on this one here, I have 3/4 of an inch from the top edge of this stretcher to the bottom edge of the drawer box. That's it. So one additional note on your sizing, with the 3/4 of an inch from the stretcher to the drawer bottom, you just need to know that for the design process and how the drawer box is going to fit in whatever space you have. That 3/4 of an inch is set automatically by the slide. It will happen on its own. You don't have to do that. That's where that 3/4 space comes from. You just need to know that in your design process so that you don't have the drawer box bumping into the upper stretcher. That's all. When you're installing, you don't need to worry about it. You just drop the slide on and it's good to go. The other note would be, and we'll talk about drawer fronts and doors and all that and overall design, but you can use, you might look at this and think, well, what if I'm doing inset, or what if I'm doing face frame? Those don't work that way. Well, sort of. So we've certainly used these on inset and face frame cabinets. So the difference then, this is a full overlay cabinet, of course. What you're going to want to do for inset or face frame is make sure that you're going to actually space your drawer slide into the opening so that it is flush with your face frame. So it might be 3/4, it might be 1/2 inch, whatever that is. You're just going to put a block of wood in there that's about the height of the drawer slide, screw that to your cabinet, screw the slide to that. It's still very, very simple to do. It just depends on your design for what that overlap. So, you know, if you have a face frame here, right, what your overlap might be going from side of cabinet case to edge of face frame. And that's going to be different based on your application. Again, whether that's just a simple face frame with overlay doors or it's inset, whatever that is. But you just space your slide in and then it works just like this. Very easy. Okay, so I'll get to the drawer fronts in a second, but to continue with the mounting structure, so you'll see I have these front structures and there's one in the back too. So the back end of my drawer slide is sitting on a stretcher in the back of the cabinet. So whatever my height is, there's one here and there's one in the back. They make metal clips that go on the back of these that you can screw into the back of your cabinet, but they're a pain to get in the right place. So I don't use them. I prefer the stretchers. The other advantage to these stretchers that go between your uprights is they help keep the cabinet square from front to back. It should be that way anyway, but sometimes you get a little warp in the plywood, either vertically or sometimes even going by the depth of the cabinet, it might wave a little. Those stretchers, once they're attached properly, help keep everything square and in line, and it provides more structure. And then all you do is set your slide on the shelf and screw it into the side. That's it. It's mounted. It's ready to go. There's nothing else to do. You don't have to worry about where the slide goes on the drawer and where the slide goes on the case. You don't have to worry about that. It's done. I just wanted to cover one other note on these stretchers in the cabinet, because I'm sure some of you are thinking, well, that seems like a pain. I don't have to put those in. How do you position in the middle of the cabinet? I got to figure out how to do that. But there's a super easy way to do that, and I just cut scrap pieces to make spacers for them. So when I design the cabinet, I know what the dimension between each of these needs to be. So all I'm doing when I build it, I don't know if I can even get them in there now because they're so snug. I don't want to mess up my front finish here, but there. So you can see I will clamp in spacers on both sides of each stretcher, and this one goes here, or it must be the bottom one. But you just put spacer blocks in there and clamp them into place, clamp your boards together, and then attach them. And then they're exactly where you want them to be, as long as you've set the height of your spacer correctly. Labeling them helps. That lines the spacers up really easy, keeps your spacing exact, and so you know everything's going to fit together exactly the way that you designed it. All right, so regarding your drawer fronts, that depends on a lot of factors, and really more than anything, that's in your upfront design. It depends on if you're using a flat front or a shaker front, if you're doing full overlay, if you're doing face frame overlay, if you're doing inset. All of those things change how the drawer front is going to be sized. It all depends on your design. It really doesn't have much of anything at all to do with the drawer slides. But if you want to know more about how I get there, please comment below and let me know, and I'll do a whole video on kind of the design process, which I do in SketchUp, to figure all that stuff out. In this case, these are getting flat front drawer fronts, and then the doors are shaker. That's what the client wanted, but this will basically have, you know, 2 drawers that go here and a smaller one up top. So all you're doing there is spacing 1/8 inch gaps in between each drawer, 1/8 from the drawer to the doors on either side of it, because this is a full overlay cabinet. Again, that's going to be different if it's face frame, if it's inset, whatever that is. But again, none of that has anything to do with the drawer slides. It doesn't matter. The drawer is still going to do what it's going to do, no matter what drawer front is attached to it. Okay, so at this point, you're going, yeah, the slide's in the cabinet, but how does the drawer attach to it? It doesn't just sit in there, and you're right. So there are clips that you have to mount to the bottom of the drawer. Again, that's going to vary by brand, and even within the brand, there's different types. I know I can buy 2 or 3 different versions of these. I usually get the 3-way adjustables, which I'll talk about the adjustability in a minute. But get these screws out of here so I don't lose them. Your clips just go on the front edge of your drawer. All they're on there with is 4 screws that go on the front. They just get tucked into the corner and screwed in. It's very simple. They're not complicated. You don't need a jig. You don't need anything special to put these in. Now, obviously, the drawer requires the right amount of space from the bottom to the actual bottom edge of the drawer box. That's going to vary, again, by brand and all that stuff, but once you have it, it's dialed in and it's easy. The only other complicated part is these little notches. If you want to call that complicated, it's a little notch. But the beauty of having this is once you do, aside from the adjustability, which is awesome, which I'm going to talk more about, is that once they're there and you're ready to put this drawer in, you just flop it on there. It locks into place. You'll hear it. And that's it every time. So you do not have to worry about putting slides on the drawer and making sure they line up with the cabinet to set your drawer in the right place. You set your slide in the cabinet, done. Very simple. And for that reason, I really like using these. All right, so let's talk about the function of these little clips here, and I'll get closer so you can see this. These big guys here, those are just to release your drawer from the slide. So when you pull it out, you pull these towards you and then pop the drawer loose and it comes right out. Now, what's awesome about these is you have three-way adjustment, which means I can move this drawer, or the drawer front more specifically, I can move it up and down, side to side, and I have a depth adjustment in and out of the cabinet. So if you're having difficulty aligning all of your drawer fronts and doors, especially on full overlay where your gaps are critical, you have movement on these. I think on most of them, it's about 1.5 to 2 millimeters of adjustment, which is enough to help with your gaps. And believe me, I've used it. So you have these little guys here. They slide in and out, and that moves your drawer up and down. Then you have these little white wheels here, and you rotate either towards the back or towards the front of the drawer, and that gives you a side-to-side adjustment. And then the last one, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a black wheel here on both sides, and that actually does a depth adjustment. So if you got like one side of the drawer, it seems to be sticking out a little bit, or you need to pull it in to meet up with your door, that gives you sort of a depth in and out of the cabinet per side. And all of those adjustments are super helpful, especially I set everything up in the shop ahead of time. Even we do it before we finish, we do it again after we finish, and then when it goes to site, a lot of times when you get to site, that stuff shifts, right? The floor is different, the cabinet's been re-leveled, things have moved in the trucks, some things just tend to shift a little bit. So those adjustments are fantastic to have to get everything lined up right, and they're so helpful. So worth the extra money, which is not even much, to use undermounts versus side mounts, because side mounts you have no ability to adjust. Okay, so I also said they're more forgiving. So what do I mean by that? You have the adjustment ability, which already is helpful, but with side mount slides, and if you've installed any number of these, you'll know exactly what I mean here. It does not take much at all for these things to be out of alignment with each other, and then when it wants to close, it's scraping or it's binding or it's just running a little tighter than it should. They're not nice and smooth like you want them to be. And that's because these are so sensitive. They have so little tolerance for error that what happens a lot, even in well-built cabinets, if you're out of square or out of alignment by even a 1/16 of an inch, you're going to notice it when that drawer slides. So it's going to go in or out a little hard. It might even jam. It might get stuck. The soft close might catch but not actually close. These are all the issues I saw with side mounts all the time. Even more so if you're trying to retrofit an existing cabinet and put new slides in it, good luck with these, because you're going to have to shim it all over the place to get that thing right, because they're not going to be square. And if they're not, that drawer is not going to close well. I can tell you all the undermounts we've installed, which I don't know, hundreds at this point, I have never once had that problem. I have never had a drawer immediately on install, pop the drawer in, close it, and it goes all the way in, soft closes fully, no scraping, no contact, no binding, perfect. And that's without any adjustment. So they're fantastic for that. These frustrate me endlessly. The undermounts are so much simpler. So just to touch back on one part of this, the setup and the design really is the most important thing, right? And that goes undermount slides, doors, whatever you're doing. The design has to be right for everything to work together. Otherwise, you're going to have problems, obviously. However, once that's correct, putting these slides in is so simple. You put your stretchers in, you drop the slide on, you screw it in, the drawer goes in. Done. Everything works. It's a joy to put in, honestly. and the client's going to be happy with them too. So I can't say enough about them. Try them on your next project. Give them a shot. Even if it's something small, do 2-3 drawers, a set of something just to try them out. I promise you, you're going to like them. And again, if you do want to learn more on the design side of this, how we got to what this is going to look like and how all these drawers are set up and how they work and how we figured out to do that, please do comment and I'll be happy to do a video on it. I'm just not sure anyone wants that, or that's super boring. So let me know. All right, and then the last reason that we talked about at the beginning that I said we were going to cover is the client perception, and also kind of use in the field, which kind of the same thing. But perception in the marketplace is still that undermount slides are better or nicer or fancier or more expensive, right? You just, when you open this, there's no slide showing here. You don't see anything. People like that, especially if you're doing dovetailed drawers. It just makes them look really clean and nice. Never mind the fact they function better. They're easier for us to install on the builder side, but the client loves it because they don't see a slide. They're nice and quiet and they work better. So it's a win-win for everybody in that case. Now, functionality wise, what I really like about these is that the soft close is great. You can see it catches and then it does that last little bit of nice soft movement. The other thing that's really cool is these are shock or soft open. So when you get to the end, it's not a hard stop. You can see I'm yanking on it here, and I'll let you listen. It's not a hard slam. It's like a shock absorbed drawer. So when you have like a silverware drawer, you can fling that thing open and you don't get all that rattling. Everything doesn't go flying everywhere. It's really nice. And they're smooth as silk. Gotta love that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. One last thing I want to mention. It should go without saying if you've watched anything on my channel before, this is certainly not a paid promotion. So Lee J's not giving me anything. I pay for all of this, believe me. So anyways, that's it for this one. I hope this was helpful. I really do. That's why I do this. Please comment below and let me know if it is or if it isn't, so I know. And I can make it more helpful or do something else that is more helpful. Either way, we appreciate you watching. Please consider subscribing. Give us a thumbs up on the video. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you next time.